Okay, so welcome everyone again to our next community meet. I believe the first one was back in July last year, so we're heading for our first year of community meets. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to come and join us today. So it's got talks from the Civo team. Now we've launched our new platform to the masses in New York. We've got internal staff talking. So first up, we've got Mark, our CEO, talking about the vision for Civo and our core values. Then I'll be presenting based on what's our new platform and how does it work internally. And then up third, we've got Siam, who's our Director of Technical Evangelism, talking about what's coming up for Civo for the next year. So with that said, I'll hand over sharing now to Mark for the Civo vision.
Thank you, Andy. Let's kick off the share. Oh no, I can't. It says disabled.
Always the way. There you go.
Okay, everyone see that? Thumbs up from someone?
Yep.
Yes,
okay.
we can.
Okay, so yeah, just a bit of an introduction about me, first of all. Yeah, I'm Mark Boost. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Civo. And what I wanted to do really was look back in history a little bit, take you back in history, and really about how we got to the point we are today. A little bit of history about myself and where it all began and how I got into computers. And I decided to do that through a series of picture slides. So it's not going to be death by PowerPoint in terms of lots of text, but it's just pictures. So to kick things off, this won't move. Here we go. So going back a fair old while, back in the early 80s is where my computer, kind of hobby started really. And I remember my father coming home one day with a Radio Shack TRS 80 computer, 2 5.25 disk floppies, no hard disk. I can't remember how much RAM it had, but maybe 16 megabytes of RAM. And for, I guess, the first time I laid eyes on that, I was excited by it. It interested me. I wanted to play with it. My dad showed me how to use it, and immediately that got my interest going. And I remember, coding up some games and learning basic computing language and messing around with stuff like that. And that's really where things really got exciting for me around computers. Take that forward a couple of years. He then came home with a modem. And it was a 1200 baud modem back in the dial-up days before kind of broadband. And again, I was really interested in that and what I could do with it. And so it started off dialing into bulletin boards. There were bulletin boards around the world at that time. It was before the internet. This is back in kind of the early 80s. And I was logging on to different bulletin boards, and back in those days, you really could do things like drop someone an email, not like you are today. You'd have to disconnect, someone else would log on, collect that mail, that message, and you communicate in that sort of way. There was a lot of freeware out there in terms of downloading games and things like that. So found that fascinating. Managed to run up quite a few large phone bills that the parents weren't very happy about during that journey. But actually, it led me on to starting up my own bulletin board. So I found some bulletin board software. I built my own bulletin board. I set it all up. I managed to get a dedicated phone line, put a modem on there, and I allowed people to dial into my computer and use my bulletin board. And I was about 12 years old at this time. Again, it was an amazing experience. It taught me a lot about computing and programming, communication with different customers and people, and effectively business as well, because I wanted to, try and monetize this. So I managed to get 4 subscribers pay me some money. It was a tiny amount of money at the time, each month to subscribe to my bulletin board. And I never got any more than 4. And I think the 4 that signed up probably felt sorry for me, that this 12-year-old kid trying to, follow his dream. So that's kind of really where things kind of kicked off in kind of my hobby. That led me on to programming, and I learned C programming language, was the first language I came across. And then I ended up in a job where I was a C programmer beyond that point. Fast forward a little bit further, the internet starts to come along, and I was kind of like, you know, what's this cool thing? You know, this is kind of getting towards the sort of mid to late 90s now. And for those of you old enough to remember, it was quite primitive in the early days. It was all Netscape Navigator. There was no Google at the time. It was search engines like Alta Vista and Lycos and things like this. And that's really where I got excited and decided to actually enter my own, you know, the first steps of starting an internet business. And initially that was as a web design company. And I think a lot of people back then, that's how they started. You know, web design was the first step into that. And for those of you who can remember, there was a package by Microsoft called Front Page, which is some web design software. It was very basic, quite easy to use actually, but and you could get a basic website up, you know, quite easily. And then beyond that point, I started to teach myself to hand code in HTML, CSS, and things like that. So as a side project, as that web design business, I launched a separate website called Low Cost Names. And that provided domain name registration services and web hosting services. And that's really where things took off in my kind of business career, I guess. And that's where the early part of Civo, you can almost say, you know, Civo is a hosting company, it's a hosting provider, and Low Cost Names was a hosting provider very much in the early days, providing domain names and hosting people's emails and websites and things. That grew incredibly well. This is the first website, very basic, as you can see. I managed to get a screenshot from a Wayback Machine. And eventually we rebranded that into LCN, and LCN went on to become one of the largest hosting companies in the UK. It was about the 5th largest hosting company. So I learned a lot about starting a business, growing a business, but I think as time went by, I got further and further away from the technology. You know, I wasn't programming. The early stages of LCN, I was writing all the websites and building all the code and all that kind of stuff. But as life went on beyond that, I was more involved in the marketing and the business strategy and less on the technical side. So my journey really was kind of a techie at heart. But as time went on, I don't know if anyone remembers this film. This is War Games, Matthew Broderick, for those of you who can remember it. But I used to play around with lots of toys and things like that. And then I became, you know, the businessman and kind of left a lot of that tech behind. And the reason I kind of talk about that is that with Civo, for me, we're not involved in the LCN business. That actually was sold a couple of years ago. And Civo is almost like LCN 2.0. You know, we've done hosting before. It was more shared hosting, email accounts, and domain names. It wasn't particularly innovative. And now Civo, we're innovating. We're starting to look at new technologies and become that innovator. So I guess that's reignited that excitement for me. And now I'm starting to, you know, get back into the techie side of things and becoming that kind of that kid I was 20 years ago or so. I've started picking up some Go books myself, learning about Kubernetes, and really trying to understand the products that we offer. I'm probably never going to understand them as well as our team. We've got some great people, but I'm a great believer in understanding the products you sell, and that will help you know, me kind of in the journey and shaping Civo what it will be in the future. So that's a bit about me and my journey to becoming Civo and where we got to today and how we got there. But what I also wanted to talk about was Civo itself and what our mission is. So I've got a few slides here that just talk about our mission, vision, and values. And I'm just going to read through that just quickly. So the first one is our mission, and that's to help simplify Kubernetes and make it more accessible for developers of all levels. And it's certainly something that we've found is that, you know, Kubernetes can be a very difficult and complex subject sometimes. You know, there are people out there with different levels of knowledge, and a lot of the platforms out there quite often are difficult to use and have quite a steep learning curve. So what we're trying to do is really take Kubernetes simplify that, make it easy, make it accessible for people of all levels. And I think even people with a lot more experience, I mean, everyone doesn't want to make things difficult for themselves. If we're able to make things quicker, faster, be more agile, then I think everyone would probably agree that that's a good thing. Our mission probably will evolve over time, but this is our core mission at the moment. But as we develop as a company, our mission will change. We have got plans to look at other products and things in the future, but as it stands today, our core focus is on Kubernetes. We've got an ambitious vision that we're working towards, and we're already partly there already. And that's really about community. I think is the central part of that. It's a cloud company that really wants to engage with its user base. We want our user base and community to be part of our journey and help shape who we become. We've already got areas within the Civo website where people can make suggestions. We've obviously got the community Slack channel, and we're looking to take all those ideas and bring those to life, really. But what we're looking to do also is run a business in a very ethical way. We want to give back. We want to support open source projects. We want to help people, and also help positive change socially and environmentally as well. And we've made technology choices that support that message. So that's the kind of, I want to look back one day, maybe my legacy. Sometimes I think about if I was older and I was talking to my grandkids one day, is that we've made a difference, a positive change in the technology world from more of a social and environmental and a community kind of way, and not just be about profit or how big we become. We want to make a positive change within that kind of community and social side. Some of our core values, innovation is absolutely key to what we do. We've got some exciting things coming up. I mean, the guys might touch on those on the next couple of talks. As I mentioned with LCN, it always felt like we were a bit of a follower. We were a small company trying to make our name. And now with Civo, it really feels like the team are doing some amazing things. We've got a few things coming up, as I mentioned, and we're really excited about some of the innovation that we're bringing to market, not just in terms of technology, but the way we do things, the way we go about things, the simplicity that we build in, and the way we make things easier for people. So thinking creatively in that respect as well. Honor our commitments. I'm a big believer in business that we have to match what we say. Our actions should match our words. I'm sure we've all been let down by some company or person in life, and we're a lot of us are kind of let down on a regular basis, and it's one of my kind of real hates. If you say you're going to do something, we're going to do it, and we make that commitment to our customers and our users, and to our colleagues, and that's the way we want to be, with very open, as I said, and having those kind of commitments that we stick to. We want to achieve excellence. We want to have high standards and always have pride in the work that we do, and not compromise, especially when it comes to quality and reliability of our products. We want to have that to be the best it can be. Supporting each other, and this comes back into the community again, and also the staff. We've got some amazing people at Civo. I'm so proud of the team we've got. I wish you could probably see some of the private conversations we have and the way the team interacts with each other. We've got people working from us from 6 or 7 different countries, different time zones, but everyone comes together in a really collaborative way. And we've got a real special relationship between us all. And we really want to take that to our community as well, and sort of grow together, and grow with our users. And finally, a big belief of ours is to be positive. It's a funny time for us all at the moment with what's going on in the world, and it's great that we've got people in our team that are there to pick you up when you're down or you're not having your best day and that kind of stuff. And we really try and encourage that sort of positive attitude, helping each other. And again, that comes back into our community and the sort of vision that we're working towards. So that's all from me. Just gives you a bit of a taster for where we've come from, where what we're about, where we're heading, and some of our kind of core values that the DNA of Civo. So I'm going to pass you back to Andy, who I think is going to talk a little bit about our new platform.
Thanks, Mark. I'm just going to take over screen sharing. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Thank you. So that's actually a reference to something in the UK. Last week we had Pancake Day, also called Shrove Tuesday. So over here on that one day of the year, everyone eats loads of pancakes. But the talk is about what's inside the CivoStack. So before we go on to what our new platform is, I just wanted to take a minute to describe what our old platform was and be able to then say, this is what's different about the new platform and this is why we think it's better. So to start off with, the hardware for the old platform was based primarily around Dell servers, such as this R640 on the right-hand side. And when we bought this hardware, we were super pleased with it. It was high performance. We were using Intel Xeon Gold CPUs, and the whole platform performed amazingly well. The problem then came from the fact that the underlying platform was using OpenStack. We started off on Mitaka, and we upgraded it over the years through a few versions to OpenStack Queens. All sounds good. So what went wrong with it? For anyone that's used OpenStack, you will probably be aware of their problems with the API. The API is inconsistent in different places, and there are times when you'll send an API request and you'll get a response back to say, yes, we'll create that instance, we'll reconfigure that firewall, and then you'll make the next API call and it will have forgotten the fact that you asked for it in the first place. Now, they use RabbitMQ as a core component as kind of a central messaging bus. Not sure whether it's just a bad architecture or maybe RabbitMQ was overloaded and it was dropping messages, but this becomes a real problem for us that we can't rely on the API to behave consistently. So we ended up with what I'd call a split brain situation. We couldn't rely on the OpenStack API, so we had to build our own API layer that acted as a cache and a translator and also kind of a supervisor role for the OpenStack APIs to make sure things actually happened the way they were supposed to happen. The next problem we had with OpenStack was we had a cluster nicely running OpenStack Queens on, I think it was Ubuntu 16.04, and we want to upgrade to the next version, stay on top of bug fixes, security fixes, etc. Unfortunately, the next release of OpenStack required the next version of Ubuntu, and you can't upgrade either the version of Ubuntu on Queens or upgrade to the next version of OpenStack and then Ubuntu. You had to do both at the same time. Now, the best advice we got out of the OpenStack operators mailing list was, it's simple. You create a brand new cluster running OpenStack Rocky, and then you migrate all of your customers over one by one. Now, obviously, we're a small company, so it didn't work for us to completely duplicate our infrastructure just for a migration. And the final problem we had was that the speed of OpenStack from cluster launches was rapidly decreasing. Now, again, this may come down to RabbitMQ being overloaded or various bottlenecks in the platform and single points of failure. But it was certainly causing us problems in terms of where we wanted to be with our platform. So we built something entirely new. Now, the new networking infrastructure for our CivoStack looks something like this. We actually have at least 3 connections to the internet, but basically every component in the networking stack is both duplicated and connected to each other. So we could lose one of each of the edge routers, one of the spine switches, one of the top of rack switches, and everything would continue as normal. Obviously, on a cluster level, we have a bunch of compute servers. So if any one of those goes down, the others can pick up the workload. So we have a resilient software stack now. The hardware for it, we've chosen to use the Open Compute project. Now, this is an amazing technology where they reduce duplication in things like the power supplies, so there's not power supplies per server, and they achieve amazing density by using 3 compute servers in each 2U rack. For our storage platform, all of these servers are actually running NVMe drives. So we've got one of the fastest storage platforms for hardware now in any hosting provider. On the software level for CivoStack, we've of course gone with Kubernetes because we're a Kubernetes company. And as the guru of Kubernetes says, Kubernetes is a platform for building platforms. So we don't just use Kubernetes as a regular end user would. We've built our own extensions and we run them with Kubernetes being the underpinnings of our entire operation now. We've partnered with Storage OS to provide that fast storage framework for us. And we're in the middle of writing a driver so that in customer K3S clusters, we'll be able to write down to Storage OS without having to use things like Longhorn or local path provisioners in the K3S clusters. But the real special sauce for how we do things is we have a whole bunch of Kubernetes operators. So for those of you not familiar with Kubernetes operators, the principle is this. The etcd database that Kubernetes uses is the central source of truth. Everything is stored in there. And then whenever we change a custom resource, so let's say we have a custom resource called a K3S cluster. Whenever we make a change in the etcd database for a customer's K3S cluster, Kubernetes will call the operator, which is running our custom code, and say, the user has requested it scale from 3 nodes to 4 nodes, or from version 119 to 120. We make one simple change, we update any external resources required, and then we save those results back into the database. Now, regardless of whether we consider that job finished or not, if the etcd database state doesn't match the actual state of the system, it will call reconcile again, and it will keep looping until the desired state matches the actual state of the world. So this gives us a nice clean architecture we can use to develop custom components. And the final piece of the puzzle is how do we get CivoStack installed? So we have entire racks full of open compute hardware shipped out to data centers. And the process is basically this. The data center receives the hardware, they plug it into power and networking, and then we connect into the out-of-band devices and configure those. Then the out-of-band device will reboot all of the servers and install the base operating system on every server via PXE booting. This process takes about 15 minutes. Once that completes, we run an Ansible playbook, which installs Kubernetes and a single custom operator called our CivoStack operator. Again, that takes about 10 minutes. And finally, the CivoStack operator installs Storage OS and all the rest of our custom operators to form the pattern. So as you can see, inside of about 45 minutes, we can go from an empty rack of hardware through to a fully configured CivoStack region. So the advantages the CivoStack brings us over the previous situation we had is the Kubernetes operator principle is easy to maintain. We don't have a split pane anymore because the Civo API communicates directly with the Kubernetes API and doesn't store anything locally. So our Kubernetes superclusters are the central source of truth. And finally, we almost have zero touch provisioning from a new cluster arriving and being ready to actually use by customers. And in the late great Steve Jobs fashion, there's one more thing. While we were building CivoStack, we managed to give the UI a complete refresh and implement dark mode for those of you that are into that sort of thing. I'm sure a lot of the community will be aware I'm personally not a fan of dark mode, but I'm happy that you guys have it. So that's the end of what CivoStack is and how it works. So next up, I'll hand over to Siam for his presentation on the future of Civo, the roadmap.
Okay, I think you're able to see the screen.
Yep.
Okay, so so a bit of introduction about myself. I'm working as Director of Technical Evangelism at Civo, and I can be reached on Twitter, and I write blogs on Civo as well sometimes on a Medium. I'm CNCF ambassador, Docker community leader, and these are some of the other things that I do. A YouTube and a book I recently wrote for Kubernetes certification CKS. So what we have done is we have seen the history of Civo from where it came, why it came, its existence, its vision, its power, and where the overall vision for the community and the company on the whole. And we have seen the new platform, which like the awesome hardware is there now. We have went in all Kubernetes game and even faster launches. So when Civo was there, though the OpenStack gradually was decreasing our launch times, but still it was pretty fast. And now we are even faster. So it's basically less than 2 minutes. Sometimes it's also 60 seconds, 70 seconds. So which is way fast to spin up a managed Kubernetes cluster in cloud. So I mean that's really amazing thing. And yes, we have dark mode. And we have our CivoStack. So from zero touch, like Andy mentioned, zero touch provisioning. So from the bare metal hardware to the CivoStack, we can go in about 45 minutes. So all these things are in place. So what's next? So what's next that we are working on, and how we are working on, and how do we plan all these features in general? So we already have the hardware for the other regions in place. So yes, we are going multi-region. So we went live in US, and UK and India are next on the list, and the order is already placed. And it's not that we are planning on that, so they are fixed, and we will be launching these two regions next. So Civo Cloud is going multi-region, and that's what most of the community also wanted to go multi-region. So and that's what we will do. We'll expand even more, but this is the confirmed ones with the hardware ordered. Next is I want to talk about multi-master. So whenever we talk about setting up a Kubernetes cluster, whether it's plain K8s or whether K3s, people always talk about high availability. And whenever we talk about high availability, we talk about multi-master. So yes, this particular work is also in progress. So multi-master support for K3s is in progress. And I have seen lately that there are few folks in the community who are actually trying to replicate this scenario or create a multi-master kind of scenario. So which is good to see the excitement. And all these features that I'm discussing, they are actually the most top voted features by the community. So that's the power of the community that Civo brings in. So our roadmap, vision, and the platform itself is very heavily influenced by the community. So we see wherever we see that we are adding the value to the community, and wherever the community sees that this particular feature can add value to other community folks, they raise it as suggestions. And then people vote on the suggestions, and then we internally discuss on the top voted suggestions, and we build our roadmap. So that's how simple it is, and that's how transparent it is. So next I want to talk about is persistent storage service. So Andy already mentioned that we have partnered with Storage OS, and it's fantastic. And Andy himself is writing CSI driver, so which will help you, create without using Longhorn or any other a service. You will be directly able to create the PVCs and directly use the storage. So I think that is something really we should be excited. The thing is, this is also one of the most requested feature by the community, and the status is yes, in progress. So this is happening. The next is time and again we see the need for external DNS Kubernetes service, which is basically synchronizing the Kubernetes services or the ingresses with the DNS providers. So the good news is the PR is already raised on the Kubernetes repo. So on the main Kubernetes repository, there is a PR which is already raised. There are minor edits that are to be done. So we had to launch the platform first, and now we are extending it to the other features. So PR is raised. There are some of the edits that the team is doing, and after this edits, once this is merged, and you will be able to use this as well. Next is DBaaS. So database as a service. Yes, you hear me right. You will be getting the database as a service as well. So the status is also in progress. So we are working on the most requested feature, and so database as a service will be provided to you, and you just create the database and it will be internally created. The platform again remains the CivoStack, the powerful hardware with the power of Kubernetes we already have, and the top three, the top ones, or the ones actually, the ones we are focusing on is MySQL, Postgres, and Redis. So the status is green and it's in progress. And this is actually the most requested features by the community. And so we love when the community is getting involved in not only testing the product but also in aligning themselves with the vision, so aligning themselves with the roadmap, so that all these suggestions, they can become a part of the roadmap. They can be a early feature or a late feature, but they will be part of the roadmap because they are somewhere that will benefit the community. So next is the next three features is master backup. So whenever we talk about a managed service, so there is something like what if my cluster goes down, especially the master, because in managed Kubernetes, we'll be taking care of the master. So the backup of the master will be done by us. So we'll be working on that. Then there is another very good feature requested, which is actually having a lot of use cases. So you have applications that might not require a specific nodes, and you have application that might require some heavy workloads. So heavy workloads that require the heavy nodes, like the large nodes or the extra large nodes. So for that, multiple node pools would be required, so for running different set of workloads in a cluster. So basically you will be able to add multiple different node pools in your cluster. And next is auto scaling. So this is also, I just recently saw, maybe today or yesterday, in the community Slack, that people have asked for auto scaling. So these come every now and then, requested by the community, and they have been top voted in the suggestions. I keep on repeating. So always go to the suggestions area. If you have any, just dump your suggestions over there, with obviously with the proper use case and a bit of description. So auto scaling will help by adding a node when you have resource constraints. So it'll basically, if you are familiar with the Kubernetes cluster autoscaler, it would work in a similar fashion. So the status for these three is to be started. So TBS is to be started. So these are yet not started, but yes, they are on the roadmap. And since we are talking about what's next for Civo, it makes sense to bring these three, because once we are done with the in progress ones that I just talked about, these three would be the ones that we'll be focusing next. Plus, if any other great suggestions that comes up and actually will heavily impact the community, we'll work on that as well. Now, next portion that I want to talk is marketplace. So marketplace currently is very heavily used. People love it when it doesn't work. So people just want to just click the application and have bunch of things ready when they create the cluster, and or when they are just they want immediately, they think, okay, I want Rancher, I want Portainer, I want some Cube scanning tool. So they immediately go to the marketplace, install it. So it has been, a pretty good feature, heavily used by all our customers. We have got a lot of feedback on marketplace. So what we have decided is we will be revamping marketplace. And currently marketplace have Helm 3 support only using the CRD, which comes with K3s, but we'll be natively supporting Helm 3 and not support Helm 2, because that's where the industry standard is. We will come up with uninstall feature. So right now, once you install the application and you delete the application from the cluster, the application still shows on the UI because we do not have the uninstall thing. So the uninstall would be there. The update will be there. So you will be able to update the application, marketplace applications, and it will be more open for the community. Now, this you might not get this particular statement as of now, but that is what I can tell you as of now. So it will be more open for the community, and trust me, you will love it. I myself am working dedicatedly on marketplace now, and I'm trying to make sure how to make it more accessible for the community, so that you can use it. And there are a lot of things apart from this that you will get for sure, but these are some of the main things. And just wanted to let you know that the marketplace area is getting revamped, so that is something that you should be excited about. So yeah, that's it from my side, and that's what we are building on the roadmap next. I mean, for the next few months in this particular year, you will be seeing these, plus some of the other features that come up urgently in the suggestions, which are very very beneficial for the community. Or if we internally also, the team is so enthusiastic that every day there is some sort of suggestion that comes from within the team, so that also contributes. So if those sort of things come, then definitely that will contribute to the roadmap. But I think these are enough things that the community has requested, and would be very happy to have these features. So yeah, over to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Simon. That's the end of the presentations. So I believe Kai has been compiling a list of any questions, and the three of us can answer them live.
Yep.
As they come.
So there's a bunch of questions that were sent in from the registrants for the meetup earlier. So I'll just run through those quickly, and then we're going to do the ones from YouTube and the ones that came on during the presentations. So I know that Siam mentioned the sort of upcoming regions, but there's been a question: is there a plan, and when possibly, Mark, to have a region inside the European Union?
Yeah, there's definitely a plan for that. So as I mentioned, we've got obviously the New York one live. The UK one will be ready in a month or two, or 2 or 3 months probably. And then the Indian one will quickly follow. And then later in the year, we plan to have a mainland Europe region. We're not decided on exactly where that's going. At the moment, it's probably going to be in Amsterdam or Frankfurt. So if you've got a preference, then maybe let us know.
Speak up now.
On the chat. Yeah. But we're yet to finalize that. And then no doubt we'll have some more regions next year, but they're the 4 key regions that we want to focus on launching this year.
Thanks. And then there's a question sort of kind of related to my job as developer advocate, and to Siam's as sort of technical evangelist director, is how to contribute to Civo. And I would say that the easiest one is to be active in the community Slack, engage with other users, help people out when they have any issues, and then stepping up in terms of difficulty is to write a guide or contribute to the marketplace, and suggest features that you'd like to see, vote on any features in your account. And then the third one, which is slightly more involved, is spread the word and use Civo in your demos. Go to meetups and sort of demonstrate stuff that you've built on Civo, and sort of evangelize wherever you may be. I don't know, Siam, if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, so you have covered most of the things, and we are working on like the marketplace thing. So we are making it more accessible. When we say that we are making it more accessible, means you will be able to contribute more. So you'll be able to contribute in different other manners as well, other than the current one. Can't say more than that. Apart from this, yes, the guides, documentation, create the issues that you think which are not working. The CLI is there. You can use the CLI and see how it is working. The testing of the CLI, WSL2, all these things that also you can test those things. They are working fine. If not, then you can contribute there as well. There's Go code, a lot of things that you can contribute to. And if you have something in mind that you want to build, on Civo, then you directly reach out to Kai or me, so we can see how well that particular feature or that particular extension or something that you already have built can be integrated in the platform. So like I said, it's this is the power that the community have with Civo Cloud, that you can influence the roadmap, you can add the features, so you are at the par. So if you have something in mind that you want to contribute in terms of feature that you have or a tool, then do reach out to us, and I'll be happy to hear, and so would Kai and others.
Yep.
Just to also add to that, if you are more developer focused, then feel free to check out github.com/Civo, and our repositories are open there for the stuff that we've released so far. There'll be other things coming there soon.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in on that, Andy. I was going to say, oh yeah, like there's already a bunch of open source and there may be more. I've got one last one from the pre-registrations. I don't know who sent these in, so apologies that I'm not mentioning names in these, but will the Kubernetes clusters be included as part of KUBE100 monthly credits? For those who don't know, KUBE100 users who were the first ever Civo beta testers, even before the Kubernetes service, they get monthly credit. And to answer the question, that credit can be used for anything. So it doesn't matter whether you're running VMs or you're running Kubernetes clusters. You can just use your KUBE100 credits as you wish.
Just to be clear, the KUBE100 is a lifetime thing for the first 100 users on our platform. This isn't KUBE100.
Yeah.
That discount won't be going on forever. We can't afford to give away things infinitely.
But for the moment, all KUBE100 users, so the current Civo Kubernetes beta testers, get $70 per month statement credit. Right. Let's jump on to questions that came in from YouTube and during the presentations. And the first one is from Derek Cordero, who asks about CivoStack. So there are no virtual machines. What are the nodes that the customer sees?
There are virtual machines. So we launch virtual machines on top of Kubernetes, and that hosts K3s, which is your node and your master at the moment. So yeah, we run virtual machines on top of Kubernetes is the short answer. We run a bunch of pods for other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, K3s clusters are implemented with virtual machines.
And I know, and to add to what Andy's saying, we've got plans to do a deep dive, separate session into our platform where we'll jump on the command line a bit more and show people around and get under the hood of some of the technologies that we'll be using. So that'll be something coming in the future, and give you a chance to really see what's under the hood.
That's kind of leading really nicely into a question or a comment sent by John Molina on YouTube, who said, I hope you guys are planning to do a talk about the CivoStack at KubeCon EU or North America. And I would just like to add my +1 to that is like, yes, please. Can we submit a talk?
Yeah, I think the plan is that we will be talking at certainly one of the KubeCons about CivoStack and how it works.
Awesome. And then two more questions, I think. One from Vishal asking, which CNI does the KUBE100 platform use?
I think that's one of the parts that we're not ready to release yet. It's one of the standard ones available on GitHub, but then has been customized and enhanced to be more production grade for what we needed it for.
Cool.
But I think that's one of the parts that we don't release at the moment.
And then one last one from Amit, who would love to hear the Ceph incident killing SSDs in more detail. But
so the Ceph incident killing SSDs. Okay, so what happened was that SSDs fail sometimes. That's part of the normal way of life in a hosting company. The problem we had was that when they fail, it then starts to immediately write that workload out across a bunch of other SSDs. And when you get hundreds of SSDs all ordered at the same time, the chances are that when one's reaching end of life, some of the others might be reaching end of life. So more started failing. we also had a second batch which was a different size. So then some disks were getting full, and Ceph wasn't smart enough to know disk A is 100% used, disk B, which is twice the size, is only 50% used, and therefore send all the writes to disk B. So it was instead trying to write everything still to disk A and failing because it was out of space. So yeah, which is why we're not using Ceph for CivoStack. We have a storage provider in Storage OS, and it's more Kubernetes native anyway.
Cool. I think
that's about the extent of my memory on that.
Yeah, yeah, we don't want to think about that stuff anymore. Yeah, I think those were all the questions that came in. So
fantastic. No others coming in last minute. So
no.
Okay. So thanks everyone for coming again. It's been a pleasure to be able to talk to the community. Again, if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out on the community Slack or Twitter or pretty much any of the public channels we're in, and we're happy to talk about as much as we can. And yeah, keep your eyes out for what's coming in the future.
Yeah, I think to add to what Andy said as well, that we are going to do that deep dive. We will reveal a lot more about our platform, but we just want to do it at the right time. Yeah, so we'll save it for that session, and you'll get to see a lot more about how things work.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll call it a day, and we look forward to seeing you on the next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.